Today's guest is Bob Olsen. He's the Chief Marketing Officer at Chief Outsiders. Thank you, Bob, for coming on the show.
I'm excited to be here. I'm a big fan of the podcast and the work that you do. So I was honored that you asked me to join you today. So thank you.
Oh yeah, thank you so much. So, taking a look at your background a bit, you started, it looks like, in the science side. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, I always had an interest in science and innovation. So getting into materials company, pharma, chemicals always interests me. A lot of good things to do with product development, but at heart, I'm a marketer. So I started my career in field sales for a French pharmaceutical chemical company, and then continued both my interest in the commercial side, marketing, sales, but in science-based companies. I went on to Deloitte for about 10 years, helping other companies grow through better marketing and sales. And as a lot of us in consulting, I was hired by my client, DuPont, to found and then lead their corporate marketing group. And I did that for many years, eventually moved into their electronics business. Again, the science of the electronics and particularly the photovoltaics was very interesting to me. So a lot of marketing challenges, a lot of technical challenge, innovation. So the science-based companies have always provided a really exciting venue for me to deploy a whole bunch of skills and keep going. And
Yeah.
eventually, I did move on from DuPont. I had a great opportunity to fill the role as chief marketing officer for a material science company called FXI, private equity owned company on material science. And so went into the chief marketing officer role. And again, both, a lot of marketing, a lot of sales, but science based, polyurethane products like bedding, medical devices, we're all part of that. So I got to see a lot of different challenges and work all over the world, a lot of time in China, a lot of time in India. So it's been an exciting career, and I'm happy to keep it going.
Very cool. Now, so sales, marketing, science theme comes out. How did that come out in your early years? Like, what were you like as a child? Were you the one selling stuff or doing experiments? How did that appear early on?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, more as experiments and building things. So I had a chemistry set, and I was an only child, so I had to keep myself busy. So I think I was always building things and taking things apart and putting them back together, radios or bikes or whatever it might be. And so I think I kept up with that theme, but also I really enjoyed the people side of things. I like to get out there and see different things and meet different companies. So when I left school, sales was a good way to do that. And in my undergraduate work, I really liked marketing. And frankly, I had a professor mentor that said, "Man, if you want a good career in marketing, you got to start with sales. You got to know what it's like to knock on the door of a customer, have somebody say no, get rejected, solve problems." And so that's what I did, and it was fun. So
That's
yeah, I
interesting.
think the science thing was a carryover from my childhood, as you pointed out. I was interested in space and chemistry and things of that nature.
Interesting. If you want to be good at marketing, start in sales.
Yes.
Huh. I'm guessing you've passed that on to people.
I do all the time, and it gives you. I think it does a couple things. It gives you the experience of being in front of the customer and really trying to understand the value that you can bring and understand their needs. And also, and I was a young guy in my 20s. It gives you sort of a maturity from companies just saying no or being rejected, and having the resiliency or the creativity to keep coming back at it. And it exposed me to a lot of companies. But also, I think one of the things it's really done for me throughout my career is give me a customer mindset. So for the next several decades, when I'm in meetings, internal meetings in particular, I always have the customer in mind. So what is this going to mean for the customer? Are we going to solve problems? Does it make it easy easier for them? Does it make it harder for them? Are we easy to do business with? Are we not easy to do business with? So I've always had the customer in mind from those early days, and I think it served me well, and hopefully served the people that I've tried to help
Ah,
pretty well. Tats.
so progressing on, you went sales, marketing. Now, what did you do from there to develop your marketing skill? Because marketing, you can go in so many different directions. What happened from there?
Well, I think two things. Early in my career, I got an MBA in marketing, so I got the basics, the classroom, and a lot of that, frankly, still holds up today. I still think there's four P's of marketing, and I still focus on those things. And then when I was at DuPont, one of my charters was to build or rebuild the marketing capabilities at DuPont. I think DuPont was known a generation ago in the 50s and 60s, frankly, to be one of the strongest companies around for marketing. But I think over a generation or two, they had sort of let that muscle atrophy. So bringing those skills, those capabilities, those roles back to DuPont helped me get reacquainted with marketing, and particularly what was happening at the time, Tats, was that digital was becoming more and more prevalent. And like a lot of companies, DuPont, they had traditional marketers over here and digital marketers over here. And what I tried to do was really bring that together under the umbrella. There is no digital marketing. It's just marketing, and that's the way business gets done. So founding DuPont's first commercial digital strategy really allowed me to roll up my sleeves and get very close to the topic and help the individual businesses at DuPont go through their learning process and build their capabilities to become good and strong, not just marketers, but also really understand the digital side of doing business and how to integrate that with traditional sales and marketing skills.
Yeah, and was that the main push within DuPont, the digital introduction, or were there other things you were tightening up as
There
you
were,
got along?
yeah, there were a lot of things I think we were tightening up. DuPont, a lot of their business went through uh, various channels. So really strengthening the channel strategies and people's acumen around how to manage and design good channels. Pricing was a big. That's one of the as you know, one of the biggest levers a company has for profitability. So we did a lot of not just training in pricing, but creating roles around pricing to really help the businesses. So
Hmm,
really focusing on all the dimensions of marketing that were helpful for DuPont. Not everything is not all marketing capabilities are needed for all businesses, but we sort of centered on the few that were most important: product development, market insights, pricing, channel strategy, and focused on that, and made the organization much more open to embrace marketing. So creating career paths for marketers and making marketing a good place to either have part or all of your career. And then along the way, then we began to weave in digital, and it was an education too. The digital, helping the organization understand that digital was not just a B2C thing. That the B2B world was going to really rely on on digital to interact with our customers. That's how they get information. That's how they think. And I think we did a good job. I think back in the day, and there's still DuPont is still working on all those things, and still a pretty good company today.
very cool. One of the things about science-based companies is rolling out new innovations.
Mhm.
Now, tell me about that. How do you approach that? What are the do's and don'ts around, well, maybe identifying areas and then rolling out these products?
Sure. I think a few things, Tats. One of the things that I think is very, very important is of course to have a formal process, a new product development process, a stage gate process. I think a lot of companies, particularly in the material science space, treat that rather informally, and what happens is they tend not to sunset or kill projects in the pipeline. So everything's important, and so things move slowly. So I would say have a good, robust stage gate new product development process with marketing involved throughout the process to bring the customer insights. So I think I've seen in many companies that the new product development takes place and is driven by the technology resources, and they finish it and then try to hand it over to marketing to say, okay, go launch this, right? And marketing says, well, it's not just about creating a nice little brochure for it. Is that, did we have market insights from the beginning? What's the competition doing? How should we price this? And just as importantly is really understanding, is that window of opportunity still open? So things could take so long in the product development process. By the time it gets launched, that opportunity may have passed. So I think having good market insights and marketing representation throughout the new product development process, not at the end throwing it over the fence. So really having an integrated process. Whoever leads the process. It could be a technical person, it could be a business person, as long as there's a good, robust stage gate process where you have functional roles represented from manufacturing, obviously technology, marketing, sales, and regulatory, or whatever is really called for that particular product, and a lot of voice of the customer throughout.
Absolutely. So I noticed one of the articles you wrote was talking about marketing, and it's probably going to come back to partially insights as well, but um, and execution and perceived execution challenges. And I thought that was really interesting. Can you walk me through that concept? I think you've encountered this many times.
Yes, yes. I think often, especially in the work that I do now. So as you know, I'm a fractional chief marketing officer, helping smaller and mid-sized companies. And often my phone rings, and it's the CEO of a company, or he was the founder, or she was the founder of a company, and growth is stalled, or they've hit a plateau. And more often than not, they'll say, well, we need help with our marketing because our campaigns aren't working, or we're not getting the leads we need. So there's something wrong with the way we're executing. And quite often I find that the marketing is okay. It's being run well. They have good people, but it's the steps prior to that need some help. So I look at it, sort of in three steps. There's the insights. Who do we serve, and what do they need? Then strategy. Clear, compelling purpose and direction on who we serve, and then execution, the resources, metrics, tactics. So very often, I'll try to back up the CEO, or if they're a client, back up the client to ask them the questions to feed the execution. So do they have a strategy? A lot of times the answer is no. They have an idea. We want to go after this market, but are they really focused on, what are the needs of that market? What's the right positioning? What's the right offering? And specifically, what target segment? And then backing up from there, the whole thing is fed with good insights, right? And I think too often, Tats, companies, especially smaller companies that are close to the market, fall into the trap of getting comfortable thinking that they know what their customer thinks, instead of getting out there and really finding out for sure, what does their customer think about them? What does the customer think about the competitor? How do we compare to our competitors? So in that insights step, really drilling into competition, really drilling into the customer needs, right? And then also the company, right? Your own employees and the culture. Do the employees understand what the strategy is, what their role is, and what's the culture like, right? You're familiar with the expression that I'm a big believer in, that culture eats strategy for breakfast. And if it's an unclear or bad culture, the strategy and the execution, are going to be fighting an uphill battle the entire way. So getting those pieces and understanding those up front in some type of deliberate way, feeding the strategy, I think can go a big, big way to better execution. And in fact, companies can save money and do more with less in the execution phase of their work.
Yeah. I mean, can you give me an example that you're able to share, whether it's a company that you work with or your company you've seen, where you've seen some very compelling strategy being pursued?
Yeah, I think, um, in terms of the compelling strategy, I think one particular company comes to mind that was it's outside of the materials area, but it was a professional services company, right? And they were trying to grow in their marketplace, and when I first had a discussion with them, they had no sort of focus on their market segment. So let's be all things to all people. And that, sort of a mass market without really fine tuning their offering to align with the individual segments ended up, having them get very frustrated and spending money where they didn't need to, as an example. So one of the things they eventually did was, basic marketing 101, still the stuff, we all learned in business school 100 years ago, but it's still important today. They really segmented their market. So they took the market apart, identified all the segments that existed, and began to sort of assess the merits of each of those segments, how their product fit with those segments, the profitability of those segments. Sort of did a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats on each of those segments, where the competition is strong, where the opportunities are, where they could survive, and what was most attractive to them. And so it was through that they identified two main segments for themselves, and began to build a new offering around that. And they've become very successful in doing that, and changed a little bit of their business model and expanded the kinds of services they offer. They're a professional services firm focused on the HR community, and really expanded their offering to include coaching, leadership development, in addition to sort of the executive search work that they had already done.
Yeah, no, very cool. Now, I know in marketing roles, when they're smaller, they have higher tactical components to it or more hands-on components. As you become a larger organization, it becomes more of a resource allocator or an internal investment type kind of role. And when you get to the higher levels, what sort of guidance can you get people that are kind of transitioning to role where they were more hands-on with it and they become less hands-on and become more of a investor of resources and stuff like that.
Sure, sure. Yeah, I've been through that myself. A few things. I think number one is, don't lose touch with the market. So we talked about having that customer mindset. Still find the time to get out there with the customer, so you're hearing those things directly. So when you are back in those meetings, and maybe a little hands off from the tactical work that one used to do, you still can represent the customer and have a feel for that. And so I say that's a giant one. And then keep in mind that marketing isn't always done by marketers. So there's the activity of that encompasses marketing, whether it's customer insights or pricing or product development. And so I think taking a broad lens in the organization, and knowing that, well, a business manager might have some of the marketing responsibility, or a sales leader might have some of the marketing responsibility, or a market research person. So being open to look across the organization, recognize that marketing might get done in different areas. There's an old expression: marketing is too important to be done by the marketing department, right? So engaging the organization and helping the organization understand what marketing is. So if it's a small company and you've two or three of you, you've got it covered. But once you get to, a company that's several hundred million or several billion, you find that there's different impressions of what marketing is. So there's an education point that one needs to do as a senior marketer, helping. I've been in companies, science companies, where I'll get there and I'll ask around, and okay, what's your view of marketing? I think marketing is developing brochures and going to trade shows, and I mean that's a very real perception in the material science industry. So there's ways to then educate the leadership and have that cascade out to the company, and help them understand the value of marketing, and enroll community within your organization to help understand and drive marketing, and helping them understand how having those capabilities in the end are going to drive growth.
Yeah, makes sense. So when you're not in your marketing role and working away, I mean, do you have hobbies or things you like to do?
I tend to do outdoor stuff like this time of year. The weather in the Northeast is turning nice, so I'll do a little gardening. I'm a scuba diver, so I'm excited to do some of that. I'm a sailor, as you might see the picture behind me. So I try to tell them I've got three kids in their 20s, and I try to tell them that the more time they can spend on, in, or under the water will be good for their soul. So tried to teach them how to sail and scuba dive and do those things. So yeah, and on a related note, spending time with my kids. They're all moving on to the next stages in life, and it's exciting to see them move into to their careers and do exciting things. So I'm trying to help them along the way as well.
Awesome. I did a little bit of sailing on on those small, mostly on those small boats, lasers. But what type of boats were you sailing?
Yeah, so I started very much like you. My dad taught me how to sail on a 12-foot sunfish when I was a
Sunfish.
kid. But then I've been fortunate enough to have friends with sailboats that are like 35-ish feet that I've kind of learned there. And then as I continue to get the buzz, I took my kids and we went to Annapolis for a week and did our basic keel boat certification on the J boats they have. And last year, right before the COVID, finally convinced my wife to join us, and we chartered a catamaran in the BVI's, British Virgin Islands, and had a great
Wow.
time. So I hope to return. I hope to return to that. So, and it's a good way to get out and sort of recharge the batteries and get away from the computer a little bit, and hopefully get some inspiration and help me along the way back to work as well. So it's been a fun thing to do.
Awesome. Bob, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you wanted to cover or talk about?
I I think we covered a fair amount, and I think it's just just in summary, maybe it's the you kind of pulled it out of me, the customer orientation, super critical, and then really coming back to those getting those market insights right around the customer, right? Don't fall into the trap of thinking go ask them. There's a lot of ways, and not you can do it in very cost effective ways to go get that customer voice of the customer. Same thing on the competitors. Ask what your customers think of the competitors. Try to game plan a little bit, right? What's the customer's growth strategy? What's impacting the competitors' their profitability, right? If the competitors knew your strategy, how would they change? Ask yourself all those questions, and then turn that insight engine into your own company, right? Whether it's focus groups or surveys, and ask what people think. Do they really know what the strategy is? Do they know how their role helps the company? And I'm a firm believer that you really can't have great customer satisfaction till you have great employee satisfaction. So that's
Yeah.
another key takeaway.
Great summary. Thank you so much, Bob.
You're welcome. This was fun, and thanks for all the great work you do. As I said early on, I'm a fan, and I watch your podcast and follow along. So I appreciate all the great work you do for the building area and material science. I think it's a great add to the industry. So thank you.